Good evening, world. Expert political know-aller and state of affairs knower here to talk about the current state of affairs of the world. I'm not sure how to start off. There's a whole bunch of shit going on. You have the Texas abortion scandal going on right now. The Texas Taliban is as one might call it. You have the situation in Afghanistan that no one's talking about anymore. The Northern Alliance is coming back. They're blowing up mountains. You have what's going on with Hurricane Ida, although that's just fucking nature. That's, there's not much you can do about that. And then you have um, the COVID stuff. You have the COVID regulations. You have Australia. They're implementing draconian fucking COVID regulation measures. It's not just lockdowns anymore. They're implementing apps that are only available on within their country, though. But you can check it out if you want. Quarantine AP or something. I'm not sure what it is, but quarantine at home something. Yeah, and everyone will be required to download it. I'm not sure if this is a conspiracy yet, but yeah, there's talks about it. Everyone will be downloaded. It has facial recognition, and supposedly like you'll be randomly dinged by the government to have to scan your face within 15 minutes of dinging the app that you have to download. And if you don't, then you get visited by the popo. And yeah, you have no rights. It's becoming a total ingsoc, whatever you call it, government over there. And it all started with the lockdowns. It all started with the lockdowns. It was for the greater good, and then you lose some freedoms for safety, and then that's an endless spiral. The constant confliction with, oh, you're not free unless you're safe. No, that's not true. And yeah, it just goes downhill from there. But anyway, let's go ahead and start with the Texas abortion stuff. They are planning on the Supreme Court has finally made the decision at 5-4 to support and uphold the Texas abortion ban after 6 weeks. The heartbeat, as this Indian anchor of We On News just put out, just watched. She's called it fucking how ironic. It's the heartbeat. It's a heartbeat bill because it's ironic because the bill is so heartless. That's funny. But anyway, it's true. If you actually look at a lot of pro-lifers talk a lot about science, but for one, regards to abortion, if you actually look at the science, these zygotes followed by embryo, followed by fetus, that do not have any consciousness, any intelligence, any sentience, any nothing. They are just a plant. They are life in the form of they grow, and they are blobs that grow until they do have consciousness later on stages, which is much after 6 weeks. It's like at least 24 weeks. A heartbeat is in an embryo is like a heartbeat in a rock. It is a mindless function. It is like spasms. It is like a dead body that does spasms after it dies. It's basically that, except it's the opposite. It's dead and then it's alive. Whereas a dead body that's it had life. Spasming is there's nothing coming after that. But I digress. Um, the the spine has fucking science stuff that goes on with that connects to the brain at about 20 to 24 weeks, and that's when you have your first signs of intelligence. That is equal to that of a fly. So if you're talking about oh, it's so graphic. It's so graphic, abortions after in late term. Like even when they do have the intelligence of a fly, etc. It's visually, aesthetically much more. It's much more vile looking, even though it's just the appearance of being bloody and awful. Where it's like, oh yeah, you crush what is it they say? They crush the skull and rip out the livers and eat his liver with the fava beans and all that. It's like this quote from Shrek: "Squeeze the jelly from the eyes." It looks aesthetically awful, abortions do, but there's nothing there. It's like if you took a fly and gave it the body of a fetus and then killed it. It would be fundamentally, like factually, like no different. Scientifically, yeah, it's doing all that aesthetically awful stuff like crushing the skull, but mentally, there's nothing there. So the whole premise of being pro-life at 6 weeks to 20 weeks is totally a philosophical argument. It's a totally religious argument. Be religiously believe that, oh, we humans as a species have an arbitrary value that is higher than other animals and other species with the same level of intelligence. It's totally nonsensical, and it has no ground in reality. Now, I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna move on from the this abortion crap going on right now. I'm good, and I'm gonna talk about COVID. All right, so in regards to the lockdowns, it is every individual company's right in their SOP, in their standard operating procedure, in their terms of service, to not allow individuals, customers, clients, tenants, whatever, on their property, within the guidelines that is provided to them. Meaning, you cannot go in a place of business, that says you were not allowed entry without a mask. You were not allowed entry without a vaccine. I think it is totally within their right to do so. It is totally different when the government is now mandating that people inject themselves with shit that they're not familiar with the contents of. They haven't looked into microscopes and seen it. They haven't come to their own conscious and willing decisions to engage in this stuff. And because people cannot survive in the world. Most people, have to participate in the public in order to survive. When they're going to subject themselves to vaccines, when they're going to subject themselves to all of these public mandates, that then is an infringement on their individual rights. And I've been seeing a lot about this argument about endangerment. Well, the whole concept of endangerment is, you're not free if you're not safe, but that's just not true. Freedom comes with chaos. Freedom comes with risk and responsibility. Freedom does not. You are not necessarily safe in a free society. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like Mad Max or anything fucking anarcho-capitalist and people driving around, busting the houses down in their jacked up monster trucks or whatever. I don't know. I'm just talking shit. But anyway, let's start with it. Let me portray it to you this way. Let's say that you're a drunk driver. All the driving laws, most of them are cringe as fuck. Anyway, so I'm gonna start with them. All right. So you had some Bud Lights. You had your PBRs. You're driving down the road, fucking 100 mile an hour down a residential road. er, and let's say that you manage to not hit any property. You don't hit any person. You don't hit any cyclists, except cyclists suck, so who cares about them? But you manage not to directly infringe on anyone's rights. You manage not to hit anything. You drive in a straight line. You stop at the and no, I say you fly through the red lights. You have not directly infringed on anyone's rights. You've certainly raised the levels of endangerment. You have, disobeyed like the regulations, the laws that exists to keep people safe, but don't actually protect freedom. Um, you have not directly infringed on anyone's rights. Now, likewise, let's say that. And now here's how it contrasts with compares with the COVID regulations. Let's say that you are walking down the street, public. You are maintaining yourself within the public domain, of which there should not be any individual company SOP that describes the regulations you have to follow. Now, you have managed to go around without wearing masks, without being vaccinated, and even though it's a completely untraceable virus, if you did pass the virus on to someone, you couldn't actually trace that back to you. But theoretically, you didn't pass on the virus to anyone, even without taking the precautions. Then you have not directly transmitted the virus, even though you didn't wear masks, even though you didn't get the vaccine. You have certainly endangered them more by not taking more precautions. But likewise, with the drunk driver that managed not to hit anyone or their property, you have not directly violated the rights of another. You have endangered them. That is not a violation of their rights. That is not a violation of their freedoms. You have exercised your freedom to be somewhat of an asshole, but you have not hurt them in any meaningful way. Now that I've got that out of the way, man, let's talk about this. Actually, fuck the hurricane. Like, it sucks. It's nature. There's not much you can do about it. I'd like to think that someday in the future we'll have incredible, like, maybe we'll drop a nuke into a hurricane. There's that meme that was going on a long time ago. That was funny. Let's talk about the Northern Alliance. And no one is fucking talking about it except for India. Um, yeah, we have totally abandoned our United States has totally abandoned and left high and dry our allies in the Afghanistan region. It really sucks. It is this administration that is pandering to, now that we've used them for our own benefit for 20 years, we have left them high and dry to pander to a bunch of anti-war fucking to a bunch of anti-war, peace-loving hippies that the current administration is pandering to their Democratic voter base that just wants to say, "Oh, West anti-imperialism, Western colonialism, imperialism, war bad, stay out of foreign affairs." People get to die to totalitarian dictatorships as long as it's not within arbitrary national borders of the United States. Yeah, it's just what all these fucking anarchists become so nationalist, become so isolationist. You know, I'm not saying that Afghanistan has to secede and to the U.S. and become a fucking 51st state or anything. Um, but for God's sakes, in look at what we did after World War II in Japan. We stayed there. Fucking, we didn't leave. We helped them build their economy. We assisted them against all domestic and foreign threats. They are now not under occupation by China or North Korea or any of that crap. They are an independent country. Now, thanks to our efforts in actually helping them build their economy, we have anime. You're welcome. We have anime. South Korea, we did the right thing. We stayed after the South Korean North Korean War. We didn't let them get taken over by a fucking regime that imprisons people for 3 generations for insulting their fat ass leader. We stayed in South Korea. Now we have K-pop. It's I mean, I'm sorry, but it's we make some sacrifices for the greater good. We have K-pop. It kind of sucks, but they also have a thriving, a capitalist metropolis. These two examples are perfect. They are perfect. That is what should have happened in Afghanistan. Now, it's not my fault. It's not America's fault that their people insist on living in the religious dark ages, that they insist on having madrasas instead of secular K through 12, that they insist on not having a separation of church and state. Now, while their general public and government is objectively better than the Taliban, sometimes you have to leave an extra print. You have to maybe use a little Western fucking a little good Uncle Sam push, a little push by the Uncle Sams. Um, in the end, the people of Japan practice their religion, their Shinto. The people of South Korea practice whatever religion they practice. In East Asia, they practice Buddhism, but it is completely separate, mostly for their government. It is a cultural thing. That is what should have been the end result in Afghanistan. They get to keep the religion. They get to keep most of their values, their street food, all of the aesthetic, harmless stuff. They get to keep the religion out of policy, out of law. That is what should have happened. Instead, there's also talk about, well, we armed these religious extremists back in the day to fight against these socialist communists back when Afghanistan was a free secular society. And I haven't looked too much into that. If that's true, that sucks, but we need to talk about the here, the now. We need to talk about how we can rectify our mistakes from the past and not arming the enemy of our enemy and actually doing the job ourselves. As Thanos put it, fine, I'll take care of it myself. No, not like Thanos is a fucking inspiration for interventionism, but yeah, that is absolutely despicable that we just went up and left $85 billion of equipment, and there is still uh and there is still Americans, from what I've heard. There's people that have been left behind. After our troops have pulled out, there's talk about uh, yeah, thousands of people that have worked with us that are still trapped in Afghanistan. Many of them homosexuals that are going to be executed for, you know what? There's uh, 20 million people that are now going to have to fight for their lives, fight for women's right to work, etc. Um, Western imperialism is good and based because our values are better. So that's all I'm gonna have to say to all the little whiners. We shouldn't exactly fucking dismantle their language, their religion, everything that that the Great Britain did, hundreds of years ago. But globalism is something that should be a force for good for all countries to come in alignment with, to defend the values of liberty, of capitalism, of autonomy, of free trade and travel, free of immigration. These are the things that these degenerate countries in the Middle East are going to have to move up to with the rest of civilization. And it's really a shame that we haven't been able to bond together uh, like this. We still have our border at the south of Mexico. That's cringe. There's a lot of cringe Republicans that are still in the government. There's just all kinds of authoritarianism that's going on right now, and I know that the progress and the development towards a single world government is going to come with a lot of struggles, but uh, it is going to come with a lot of threats towards individual liberties. But the closer we get to a free, unified society, the better. That's all I have to say about that. Except the hurricanes, it sucks. There's not much else going on in the world right now. There's idiots on Twitter. There's uh, authoritarian apologists everywhere. The world is becoming excessively authoritarian and isolationist. It is in fact the opposite. The more isolationist the world becomes, more authoritarian our tribalistic groups soon to become. That's all I have to say. And good night.